Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to A Backwards Glance, a YouTube channel that is dedicated to stories in and around Chambers County with a Southern flavor, of course, because we are Southern. I'm not sure how well you can see this cover on this book here. What this cover says is Camp Helen State Park, and I'm just going to slide in real quick and see if you can see it better that way. This book was a gift to me day before yesterday, from my cousin, Bob White. I love him and I appreciate him no matter what, but I especially love him for giving me this book. For those of you who don't know, Camp Helen State Park was the former Avondale Mills vacation spot for Avondale Mills employees. It's located in between Destin and Panama City. And for multiple generations, it was an incredible getaway. It was an elevation of our life, our living experiences. Life was good here in Chambers County, but it was slow paced. We had lakes, we had streams, but we did not have things like the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico. We did not have Miracle Strip, which was just a few miles down the road in Panama City. Back when we would travel to Panama City and Camp Helen for this mill vacation, it took us all day to get there. It was probably a 6-hour drive. Today, you do it in 4, easy. We had to stop a lot. We had to have lunch along the roadside, those nice concrete benches and picnic tables. We would typically make it as far as Seal, Alabama, and we would stop. We've been in the car for an hour and a half. Let's stop. But as a kid, I can tell you, it was one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me. We would leave on a Saturday morning and we would have to depart the next Saturday morning, be out, I think, by 10 a.m. We never lasted that long. My mother, God bless her, she did not like being away from home. And I'm telling you, man, middle of the week, she's ready to pack that car and let's go home. And as a kid, it just crushed me because I did not want to leave my friends. I did not want to leave the ocean and all the activities. And let me just give you a little bit of what those things would be. You drove up this crushed shell driveway through the palm trees and it opened up into this gigantic recreation area. In that rec area, there was shuffleboard, volleyball. I think there were some basketball hoops out there. There was this big open space, horseshoes and seats, chairs, just everyone gathered there at the end of the day. As you drove in, the cafeteria or the lunch hall was just on your right and had a big bell on it. And they would ring the bell when it was time to go eat. 3 square meals a day. And it was fantastic. I mean, incredible food. They had duplexes and cabins. So obviously a duplex, you split with another family and it slept more people typically. They were on the far right-hand side and they went back down the hill to the recreation center. On this place, there was what is called the Big House. It was the closest thing we had to a castle, a 2-story log home, the big water tower behind it, and it overlooked the Phillips Inlet, which was the body of water separated by a strip of sand from the ocean. There's a quick photo, if you can see it, of the Big House. I don't know if these are going to come through, but I want you to have a chance to see them. There's a picture of that area I just described, that big open recreation area. It was in between the rows of cabins and the rows of duplexes. That's a photo of the beautiful bay that we were able to go out and fish, swim, do sailboat races and things of that nature. And just very quickly, there is a photo of the rec hall. I can remember it had a piano and the band director, Mr. Williams, from Lafayette High School, used to go in and play the piano on vacation. Here's the beautiful beach. And something we didn't get to see very often. Typically once a year we went on vacation to Camp Helen. And I can remember making that trip into Panama City. You hung a right, you were on 98, I think. But as you came into town, there was a little rise and the ocean appeared before you. And it was the most phenomenal thing as a young kid to see that beautiful blue water. And it went on forever. It was almost hypnotic. And it was like a like a fairy tale. It was like this enchanted place in your mind. So we would make our way to Camp Helen. And I think, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that during the time we went, probably 10 or 12 years, I think the fees are like $50 to $75 per family for this trip. Now, that was a lot of money back in those days, but if you just think about today, you think about where we were. I never realized as a kid what we were seeing. The beautiful blue, then emerald green water in Panama City at the beach, that white sandy beach that went on forever. In that spot, I mentioned the 3 squares a day and all the activities. Well, the activities around that rec area were supported by others. There was a deep sea fishing boat that went out to one of the oil rigs, a catfish boat that went out in Panama City Bay. As I said, sailboat races. There were fishing boats there in the little Phillips Inlet area. You could water ski. There was a very well-kept swimming area for small children, and you could go sit on an L-shaped pier or dock right there by the boathouse. It was a phenomenal spot. It was wonderful. Then you go up the hill and go down another little road. You could walk to the beach, which had a long pier. I have no idea how long that pier was, 100 yards probably, maybe more. But it was there to fish off of, just to go and see as a kid. Watching the waves come in and break against those pier support posts, the pilings, was an amazing thing. And I can remember in my mind the squeak or the crunch of that white sand when you walked in it as it got a little damper closer to the water. It's just something that's locked into my mind. And something else I remember is the sulfur smell of the water in the showers. Wasn't too pleasant, but as I think about it now, it just really doesn't bother me nearly as much. Camp Helen was a mystical place for multiple generations, as I said. A few years back, I took my children and my wife, Wendy, to Camp Helen. It was just as they were getting started converting it to Camp Helen State Park. We walked over everything. I'm teary-eyed. I'm telling them stories, and I'm talking 90 miles an hour because it was my childhood vacations kind of wrapped into one place. We're out at the pier, and my kids are just listening to Cousin Bob's stories and shark fishing and just unbelievable things and fun at the beach. And these guys from the state park drove up in a little ATV. And I went over and said hello to them. They asked if we were okay and if we'd find everything we needed. And I guess I started telling them about what I was doing there and why I was there. And one of the guys interrupted me and he said, "Oh, you're one of those Avondale kids. We know all about it. We've got to go." So he knew what was coming. All of us Avondale kids were going to repeat and relive so many incredible, I mean, it gets me sitting here right now just thinking about the time with family, the time with all the people on the Mill Village that I grew up with, that we lived near when we lived down there. And of course, family. Cousin Bob and I were like that still. And boy, did we have some great times down at Camp Helen. I'll tell you one quick thing about Cousin Bob. We went every year. We tried to make 2 trips into Panama City and go to Miracle Strip. If we could get our parents to give us the money, or if we could save up a little money and get in and go ride a few things. One year, Cousin Bob and I are on our 2nd trip. We go and he wants to ride the Ferris wheel. And to me, it looked like it was 1,000 feet tall. Heights are not my thing. I just don't enjoy them. We ride this thing, and of course it would stop and load up other people and move you higher and higher and higher. We get to the peak of this thing, and Cousin Bob is sitting opposite me, and he goes, "Let's rock the chair. Maybe it'll go all the way around." I can tell you right now, I remember the fear that froze my grip on that bar, and I'm telling him, "Don't move this thing." He starts swinging it as hard as he can, and I mean, we are rocking back and forth, up and down. And I'm thinking he's going to flip this thing over and dump us out on the ground from this 1,000 feet in the air. And I told him, if you don't stop, when we get off this thing, I'm going to beat you to death. Now, obviously, I didn't do that, but I was so frightened. And that's the difference in Bob and me. He had no fear of anything. He just did not fear heights. He didn't fear any of those kind of things. Another quick story. One year, the pier was damaged by a hurricane. It had big gaps in it, but there are sections of it missing, sections of it twisted sideways, and the end of the pier is kind of falling down in the water. Well, we decided to walk out there anyway. We weren't supposed to be there, but we went up the ramp and onto the pier deck. And boy, we get to the first hole in that deck, and I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm not going anywhere. Well, the board seemed to be a little bit wonky. It just didn't seem to have the right length to it. So Bob says, that's no problem. I'm going out to the end. And I'm like, how are you going to get out there? He jumps up on the railing, and the railing was a board that was up and a flat board on top of it, probably a 2x6 or 2x8. He hops up on it. He takes off. He's not walking. He's just running, just kind of scooting down the thing. Ocean's probably 30 feet below him. The wooden deck is 5 feet, 4 feet below him with holes in it everywhere. I remember him just going out there. Why? He just wanted to go see it. And he turns around and comes back the exact same way. It would have taken an army, a very strong army, to move me anywhere near that big gap, watching those waves pound up underneath us. We had some great times. And I'll tell you, if you ever are near the spot where Camp Helen State Park is, you should go there. I think you can actually join a group called the Friends of Camp Helen State Park. I plan on doing that. I thought about wearing my Camp Helen staff t-shirt today, but since it's chilly and a little bit damp today, I decided against that. And also, it probably doesn't fit all that well anymore. We will maybe one of these days go back to Camp Helen and take the camera and do a YouTube video of this spectacular place. But for right now, the pictures are going to have to do. I hope you guys have a place like this in your childhood, in your memories somewhere, that you can just open up that file of memory photographs and see them and almost taste them and smell them like I do, because they are that ingrained in me. We'll look forward to getting back together in a couple of weeks. Everybody take care. We'll come back soon with more stories in and around Chambers County, or like today, about people from Chambers County. Everybody take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.